I just wanted to point out some reasons why we should welcome the refugees. Because if you look at history, the people that have been refugees have ended up being productive members of our society, particularly if you look at the Vietnamese and the Cubans that have come as refugees. They make a bigger effort than the general immigrant to learn English skills. They also have a higher rate of employment, and of course they stay longer because they have no option to return to where they're from because they've been seeking asylum or just as refugees. These people are running from out of desperation more than anything else because they're not comfortable with ISIS, and it's a Muslim nation, an Islamic nation or country that they come from, and they may be Islamic, but they don't see the caliphate, I think is what it's called, as beneficial to them, but more of a threat. And the more that they're desperate, the more likely they are to become radicalized. And that would mean that they would turn into ISIS members. And I'd like to point out that there are a few refugees that have run from political issues and religious issues, such as Albert Einstein. He came here, and look well, he did. There's also different things that they've invented, different refugees. Steve Jobs' father was a Syrian refugee, and without Steve Jobs, there would be no Apple. There's also a man that invented a key ingredient to birth control pills. He was a refugee. Sriracha was also brought to us by refugees, as well as the man that invented a way to make donuts quicker. So, refugees are good things.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. It's always glad to have you back. You're welcome.
My name is Jinx Watson, and I live at 1220 Dogwood Drive, Kingston. And I'm here because I also read Friday's Roane County News about the Roane County refugee situation. And I understand why some people might say we've got no room and no money, no time, no energy, no jobs, no interest in supporting newly arriving refugees. And we might be afraid of these strangers. And I think those thoughts come from earnest officials who believe they're protecting us as Roane County citizens. I also think that these people might be responding to the fear that's sort of been generated in our culture these days. I understand this, but I don't agree with it. First off, there's lots of different classifications. We've got immigrants, we've got refugees, we've got asylum seekers, and then we have undocumented people. Tonight we're just talking about the refugee group. The state of Tennessee has been accepting refugees for several years. Like in 2016, there were 2,000 of them that were in the state. In 2018, about 500 of them. In 2019, about 700. And these refugees are vetted by the United States government. They bear a very special status called refugee, and they are not illegal. They come from all over the world, like the Congo, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Latin America. They're forced to leave their homelands, their homes. They flee war, corrupt governments, religious and political persecution, violence, destruction. Governor Lee said some of the refugees he's met are the widows of translators we've been using over the last 18 years of war in the Middle East. Second, there are nonprofit organizations that work with these families and settle them into towns so they can become productive citizens and employees and residents. The goal is to welcome these people so they can become productive and get them as independent as soon as possible with employment, housing, and schooling. Most likely, our rural county will not be a place where refugees land, as the agency says they need public transportation to get to work. They do better where there are others from their culture to support each other, and they need a wide variety of job opportunities that a bigger city might offer. So in closing, I want to say that most of us grew up with American and Christian ideals of welcoming the stranger. I try to live my life with do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I believe in the parable of the fishes and loaves, and know Roane County can both take care of its citizens and welcome the stranger. And finally, when I talk to these folks and hear their stories, I say to myself, how could I be so lucky to live here? For there, by the grace of God, go I. Please do the right thing tonight and accept Governor Lee's plan to help in this effort.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. I'm a little nervous. This is my first time being up in the situation. But I wanted to just very briefly give an example of...
Could you state your name and address, please? No problem.
I apologize. My name is Anna Matson-Cantrell, and I live on 122-3 Blossom Lane in Kingston. And I just want to sort of put a face to the American dream that I believe that people like refugees represent. Specifically, my great-grandmother was Italian. She lived in Italy during the rise of Mussolini. She and her husband left Italy in 1921 to come to the United States because they needed a safe place where they could prosper and grow a family. My grandfather was born an American citizen, and I'm very proud to be a descendant of immigrants like them. And I believe that everyone who is willing to go through that legal process of being a refugee, who is trying to escape a very scary, very difficult situation for themselves and their family members, deserve the right to do that. And I fully trust that the people of Roane County are the sort of patriotic, open, and brave Americans who would welcome refugees, much like Americans welcomed my great-grandparents.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Anyone else like to address the commission? Go ahead, sir. State your name and address.
My name is Michael Howe. I reside at 456 Paint Rock Creek Road, Philadelphia, Tennessee, in Roane County. And I thank you for allowing us to talk tonight. Your desire to protect our community and be a good shepherd of our resources is appreciated and understandable, but your fear is unfounded. Studies have shown that immigrants commit much less crime than the host communities that they participate in. As the number of refugees seeking asylum in this United States increases, we have not only a moral obligation to treat them with respect, but also a constitutional duty. I will remind you, our Constitution states all people within the jurisdiction of the United States are guaranteed due process. And our higher courts have affirmed that this does in fact mean all people, and that includes immigrants seeking a better life and refugees seeking safe asylum. There is also, fortunately, an economic benefit to accepting these immigrants. We are an aging population. Our birth rates are declining. If we seek to achieve the GDP growth promised by our current administration, we will need an influx of foreign workers. Our farms, factories, restaurants, and resorts will benefit from access to this increased labor pool. So there's not only a moral, legal, and economic reasons to accept these refugees, but it is also a benefit to future generations. And I would ask each of you, take a look at the current list of Fortune 100 companies in our country today and see how many of them are founded or run by sons, daughters, grandsons, and granddaughters of refugees and immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Sir, could you always say that lady's got up 3 times? Could you go ahead so Tim don't have to get back up again?
I really want to talk to you guys. Hi, I'm Kay McGinnis. I live in Lenore City, Loudoun County, 109 Osprey Cove Court. And I was invited by Ben and Stacy today to come down and talk to you guys, just to let you know, to introduce myself first of all. I am the proud owner of the Delaney house that sits just right across town here. And what we are doing there, we've gone through a full renovation of the house. The house is over 200 years old. And we are opening that location up as an Airbnb for Kingston and Roane County citizens and hopefully travelers coming into town. I know a lot of you probably know the history of the house. It was built in 1810 to 1813 and built by a gentleman named, he was from the Revolutionary War, Gideon Morgan. So that will be the name of the Airbnb.
This is for everybody's, this is right here across from the old courthouse, right
Yes.
beside the First Baptist Church. So
Yes.
everybody's,
Yes. So we're very excited. I am a native of Kingston. I grew up here and my family has been local here for many years. And I'm just excited about coming back into town and building this beautiful house, and really would like to open up that you guys, we're going to have an open house, a home tour on Thursday, this next Thursday from 5:30 to 8:30, and we would love for you guys to come and see what we've done with the house and tell your family and friends about it. So we look forward to that.
is there any way you could email somebody that information about the open house?
Yes.
Get it to Ben?
Yeah.
That way we'll get it out to
It
everybody.
will be in the Roane County News
Okay.
on Friday, and also there'll be a big banner placed on the house tomorrow, so that everybody will know that. So we really look forward to having everybody come in and take a look at what we've done. And we're just excited about the house having some longevity and for people to get to come in and see this place and how beautiful it is. It is a solid structure. It'll be here 200 years from now, and it's just beautiful. So we're very excited.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Now, sir, go right ahead.
My name is Kirk Steele. My wife and I live at 402 Indigo Bunting in Ehrman. We've lived here for 15 years, and I just wanted to speak again to, as some have already spoken about the refugee resettlement resolution, and just reiterate how much I appreciate what has been said, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. And we just want to emphasize that I believe that lots of times our fear of refugees is totally unfounded. And I was looking at some statistics from the Department of Homeland Security about who these refugees are that have been coming into our country just in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's very interesting because it seems like about 43% of the refugees who have presented to the United States since 2016 have been children aged 0 to 17, 43%. And roughly 50% have been female. And about 60% of these arrivals were dependents, which means mostly women and children. So the idea that most refugees are violent young men is not substantiated by the documented statistics. These are people who are fleeing dire circumstances and looking for some opportunity to protect their families and give a life for their families. And certainly as Roane County citizens and as a county, we want to project an image of welcome to everybody who wants to live here, and that we have open hearts, and that we agree with Governor Lee that this is a humanitarian crisis, and he is deeply involved, and he's been involved in refugee resettlement and services for many, many years, predating his run for the governor. And his wife, Marie, is also involved with refugees in Nashville, women of Kurdish descent whose husbands were murdered because they were interpreters for the United States during the Iraq War. And so he has said, I will not turn my back on these people. And he believes there's a biblical mandate in his Christian faith, and I would agree for myself. The Bible speaks very strongly to our obligation to have open hearts and welcome our fellow brothers and sisters who are struggling, who need a helping hand. They can fit into our communities. Realistically speaking, the chances that any would actually end up here in Roane County are slim to none, because usually they go to the larger cities where there's services, and also where there's a community already there. And so we could probably rest assured the resolution is not even necessary. As I understand it, a county has to take the initiative to say, yes, we want refugees in order to be considered a receiving community. And if we say nothing, then we're counted out. So the resolution is not even necessary. So let's not go that route. Let's give a good image for Roane County, for everyone who wants to come, that this is a place for everyone, and that race and creed and national origin don't matter. If you want to come here and you have a heart to work and to educate your children, we welcome you with open arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele.
Hello everybody, my name is Lucinda Sheth. I live at 661 DeArmond Road in Kingston, and I am on the opposite side of the fence of this refugee resettlement. I lived in New York for 36 years. I saw when the blind sheik got his refugee asylum status, and he and his follower did the first bombing in 1993 of the World Trade Center. Our Sarnea brothers are refugees, asylum seekers. They did the Boston bombing. The list is very long about these people, and I love people. In my opinion, America has no obligation to foreign nationals to settle them, educate them, give them health care, or house them. We have an American obligation to our citizens here in this country. And on top of everything, there's 30 million plus illegal aliens running around. And don't tell me they're in the shadows, they're not. They're sitting right in the classroom next to Johnny and Susie that we're paying for. So we have an open welfare state with open borders, and we're bringing more people in. And the thing I have to say about this is that the followers of Muhammad have a political system cloaked in a religion. Islam is not the religion of peace, otherwise there would be peace in the Middle East. But their religion, their 3 books, deal with 1/3 of how to treat each other, and the 2/3 of the books, the 3 books, are how to deal with us, the infidel, the kafir. And so far it's not very pretty. So I say, let's have a say on refugees with the resolution passed today.
Thank you, Ms. Shue. Anyone else like to address the commission?
I am Jessie M. Jones. I am a resident in 115 Shady Lane, Midtown Heights, Harriman. I've come here tonight because I'm very disturbed that we would open our doors of America with so many Americans, and we're just being killed and shot down on every side. And it's not always our American people that's doing it. It's a little band of people that wants to destroy this word freedom. I'm concerned that we let people in because of this. I'll also remind you about the Manhattan Project at Oak Ridge. They come in here, they come in through, just go in the door. The first thing you know, they know everything in the world about us. They'll be able to run the place, take the place over, and we'll have to conform to their way of life instead of living under the freedom band of In God We Trust and the way we've been raised. This is why we should respect that this is our homeland. We give our lands for the Manhattan Project. Farms was just give over that we might have freedom for ourselves and the world. And I'm asking you to consider very seriously not opening the doors for any more foreigners to come in here to be educated, to take the ground from under our feet.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Mariana Mitchener-Long, and I live at Kathy Circle 1505 here in Kingston. Last week I looked at the newspaper, and before I could even check myself, a wave of shame rolled over me that those of us who live in this county would keep out people who have suffered such ungodly things in their last 2 to 3 years. They've watched their sisters and mothers raped. They have watched their fathers and brothers killed. They have walked for heaven knows how long to America, only to be starved, beaten, and otherwise mistreated in our so-called camps at the border. Then they finally get in the tent and they have a court meeting with a judge who not only does not know Spanish, but couldn't care less. And after they tell their horrific tales, then they have to hear, okay, and you're denied. and so they have to go out and leave. That we could treat people this way when we have a tradition, all of us, Catholic, Christian, Jewish, to give a home to the stranger. It says that in 12 to 15 books of the Bible, that our duty on life is to feed the hungry and house the poor and be good and do justice to all. My own family came over in the 1600s. America would not want them. They were the poorest farmers that they could be. They were Huguenots, so they had been very naughty in their own home. They had been against the Queen, and they had fought for their own freedom, and in doing so, they had done very naughty things. But when they came to America, they started a farm, the country's #1 rated apple farm. They grew their corn, and they became the people, the next generation or two, that fought in the Revolutionary War and helped us to win our freedom. So please rethink shutting out people who need us and have suffered more than any of us have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to address the commission directly?
My name is Eva Brown. I live at 180 Fars Road. And although I know some of these people are very well-meaning, they need to be educated as to exactly what is going on, what the refugee program is all about. First of all, how do these so-called refugees get here? Application. Refugees need to show a well-founded fear of persecution due to political view, membership in a racial, ethnic, religious, or social group. This definition has been so widely stretched that's essentially meaningless. For example, U.S. law declares that the China one-child policy...
Ms. Brown, I don't want to interrupt you. Put that microphone up just a little bit. You're kindly loud. Thank you.
The China one-child policy is considered a persecution based on a political view. Also, people can seek asylum in the U.S. for things such as domestic abuse, female genital mutilation, or even lack of services for the disabled. In other words, almost the entire population of every Muslim majority nation in the world is potentially eligible to come here and seek asylum or as a refugee. How are they chosen? 95% of the refugees coming to the U.S. are picked by the UN. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, 95%. We have no control over where they come from or how many come here. They are selected, and then in the late 1900s, 1990s, just before the 9/11, the U.S. picked the majority of its own refugees and immigrants, but not anymore. Since in 1965, the immigration generally worked to benefit Americans, and that all changed when the Democrat politicians came up with a scheme to change the demographics. I was quiet when you were speaking. Of the U.S.
Please address the chair, please.
To change the favor of the demographics so that it favors the Democrat Party. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, H.R. 2580, enacted in June 30th, 1968, aka known as the Hart-Celler Act, eliminated the concept of quotas that had been in place for decades. By removing quotas, this bill significantly and intentionally, in my opinion, transformed the demographic makeup of the U.S. forever. The new law changed the order of preference using visa categories to focus on family relationships with citizens or U.S. residents rather than skills that had previously taken precedence in the visa decisions. This is what opened the floodgates to the concept of chain migration. If this was a scheme by the Democrats, which I believe it was, now they could label those who oppose these efforts to diversifying America as racist or xenophobic, while importing generations of future voters from then on immediately.
You could please bring your comments to conclusion, please.
All right, let me just say that the refugee program is nothing more than, it serves as a charity, more or less, for third world countries. And it has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. The State Department awards, they have a huge network of contractors who are the ones that do the resettling. They are chosen by the State Department. They are paid so much per refugee that they bring into this country and resettle. And the refugees, once they are...
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you.
I'd like to finish my point.
I'll give everyone ample time, and I'd let you go over just a little bit, Ms. Brown. Thank you. Anyone else like to address the commission? If you could, please step to the podium, sir, state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Bob Miles. I'm from Loudoun County. I hope you will let me to continue speaking, even though I'm not a resident.
You got 3 minutes.
These people that will be coming over here are not the kind of people that came here back after World War II from Belgium and France and Italy. These people will be coming from Syria and Iraq. These people were raised by a religion that preaches the destruction of America. These people were raised by a religion to hate Americans. The Saudi Arabians that were vetted for the Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida, they were vetted, but one turned and killed 3 people. How are they going to vet these people to come over here and assimilate in our lifestyle? They cannot do it. I beg you to ask the people in Shelbyville, Tennessee, what they think of the many Somalians that were forced on them in their city. Ask the people in Nashville and Murfreesboro of the many Kurds that were forced on them. By the way, Nashville is fixing to build their 3rd mega mosque. And Chattanooga has 3. I went to a funeral in Chattanooga to memorialize that Marine that was killed down there by a guy that went to one of those mosques. Now, you've heard tonight how wonderful these people can do and what they can do for us and things like that. No, they will not. They will come over here, they will be given taxpayer money, and they won't assimilate. They will take handouts, and I'm just sorry to say that it's not what some of these people have told you tonight. Glenn Jacobs, County Mayor of Knoxville, and Ken Cannon, the City Mayor of Knoxville, wants these refugees. These rules state that if they go to Knox County or Knoxville, they can't be placed in Roane County. They can be placed within 50 to 100 miles from a county that wants them. They can be placed into a county that has not refused them. I'm telling you the truth. And my time is about up, and I have a whole lot more to say, but I beg you to pass this resolution like Loudoun County did. Loudoun County was the first county in Tennessee to do it. I would love for Roane County to be the second one.
Thank you, sir.
Evening. My name is Darren Smith. I live at 103 Forest Ferry at Oak Ridge. I want to just get back to the basics. A refugee is a person that comes to a country because they are in duress, there is fear of either political, religious, physical altercations. And I need everybody in this room to look around If you're not Native American, somewhere along the line, you've got refugees or immigrants in your bloodline. What about all the Italian families after wars and stuff like that? The dirty mix coming over here, nobody wanted them. The Chinese, they didn't want the Chinks. We are better people than this. If it wants to be a political issue, go to the ballot box and vote. Let's not make Roane County regret something.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the commission? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sherry Paris. I live at 114 Lock Haven Road in Rockwood. We heard earlier tonight, and I'm not picking on, I'm celebrating the fact that we have new opportunities for industry and tourism in our country, in our county. And part of that is the image, what we're presenting. You look at the small town in Missouri that was on NPR this week because they were the first, one of the first communities to say no. That's the type of publicity that will come from us making an maybe unnecessary statement by putting this out there at this time. We have a Roane Commission that's really trying to publicize this as a vacation place. Sevier County had some bad publicity that they had to come through based on statements in the face of some comments that were made. I just feel like we should take a step back and look at the type of publicity we'll be generating by not being a welcome committee and accepting of different people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paris. Anyone else like to?
My name is Elaine Steele. If I may add a couple of items that my husband had mentioned. I lived at 402 Indigo Bunting Drive. I just want to ask if people understand the number of people that will be coming possibly to Tennessee across the state. 2,000 people. It's not unlimited numbers. It's not great masses of people. It's 2,000 people who have been vetted. And yes, the vetting process has been up the ante by our president so that it is even harder to get into our country now than it ever has been in the past. So yes, if you say you don't trust the vetting, then you don't trust the people that created the vetting, which is our current administration, who wants to lower the number of people that come to America. And you know, we have come here to live in Roane County. There are lots of people in our neighborhood that are coming from other states because Tennessee is a great place to live, but they're not used to living in an area where people are closed off from other people. They're used to living in multicultural communities. They've had the opportunity to know people as their neighbors and as their, friends at work. And when you get to know people as people, it loses this idea of them and us. They become us as well. I don't know, I worked in the medical field. How many great physicians are out here in our local communities that are Indians? If we didn't have Indian physicians in our communities, we might not have physicians at all. I just hope that we look at people as people, not the outside color, not what they, where they came from, but they're people. They're people who are in desperate need, and we can make a difference in their life, and they can make a difference in our life.
Thank you, Ms. Steele.
I'm going to make my statement brief, and it's extemporaneous. I apologize. I'll probably. My name is Liz Singley. I live at 179 Fars Road, and I'm a Presbyterian, and one of the songs that we sing is "Be not afraid, sing out for joy, Christ is risen, Alleluia." And I think that as most of the people in here are probably people of God, And we are called to be generous, to trust that creation is good, that God has given us the abundance that we need to live a good life, and we will share. And we are called to be fearless, to love fearlessly, and and trust that God's kingdom will come about. And I think that we should act accordingly. I think we should live accordingly and be, not with eyes closed, wise as serpents and guileless as children. And I think that we're called in this case, with this enormous abundance this nation has, 2,000 people in Tennessee, across 90 some odd counties. I think it's going to be a good thing for all of us, and I think we should not publicly declare, or we should not close our doors, and we shouldn't publicly declare, no, we don't want these people here. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to address the commission? Anyone else like to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the county attorney's report.
Sure. Just, if I may, I really appreciate this pretty spirited debate from folks who have chosen to come here. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here and speaking your mind, because that's the freedom that you have. And we don't often get a lot of folks. I appreciate what they've done here tonight, and appreciate you giving me time to speak, and hope you'll come back for other issues as well.
It'd be nice to see this every month. Mr. Ledford.
I have a couple of matters. A great percentage of the work that I do for you lately has